Before you watch the video, please make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to watch more of my videos and that you don't want to miss out on. And if you want to follow my social media, check out my literature, art, and comics. All links will be down in the description below. Vision, written by Skittish Reflections. Too empty for words. In my personal prison. Funeral of sense hurts. Thoughts in repetition. A sad carlatatin, I faked composition till a quenching scene appeared in my vision. I break into your house, sharp sword in position. I level it at your heart, savoring your confession. I swipe, slice, and plunge with wild repetition, lacing the dull room with crimson red ribbons. I stop and I smile as your pieces glisten, a moment of peace, you're finally forgiven. I blink and I gasp, utterly stricken, the macabre scene is more than a vision. My Little Girl, written by Didnt. Kelly is my little girl. She's 6. I first became aware of the problem about a month ago when she brought her progress report home from school. She'd received an N in conduct, which stood for needs improvement, as opposed to the E for excellent she'd usually received. Naturally, I was concerned, so I scheduled a meeting with Kelly's teacher, who told me that recently Kelly had become a disruptive force of sorts in the classroom. She'd become rather bossy toward the other children, and oddly, the other children couldn't seem to help but do what she'd tell them to do, and that some of the behavior was, well, rather dangerous. I suggested that Kelly's conduct grade being based on the behavior of other children was hardly fair, and I drew the letter E on the desktop with my finger. Kelly's teacher nodded, said I had a point, and changed Kelly's conduct grade to an E. When I made it home, I found something rather odd going on in the backyard. Kelly had set up her easel and blackboard on the patio, and she was lecturing about the letter A. Not odd in and of itself, the odd thing was that sitting around her in a semicircle, giving her their full attention, was our dog Rex, the little neighborhood boy Billy, his cat Sly, a raccoon, 2 rabbits, and another dog I'd never seen before. Billy was only 3, and the rest of the animals, they were all natural enemies, yet they all sat, peaceful as could be. I'd suspected what was happening after I'd spoken to Kelly's teacher, but after seeing this spectacle in my backyard, I was certain she was becoming. Kelly was going through the change. I'd gone into the kitchen worrying over the conversation I'd soon be having with her. This was something we'd have to keep hidden from everyone, especially Kelly's father. He wouldn't understand. Just then, though, I heard Kelly's little authoritative voice through the window say something like, "No, Billy, you have to use the pointy end of the knife and you have to jam it up under the ribs so it'll reach the heart, like they do in the television." "No!" I screamed, and I flew through the back door and onto the patio. I saw there was, how can I say it nicely, chilling on a number of levels. Little Billy had a knife in one hand and was poking it at his cat, which he was holding down with the other. The animals were gathered around watching like they might have been observing a fellow student dissecting a frog in biology class. I snatched the knife away from Billy, and the animals all scattered. It occurred to me that Billy had a little sister, and I pondered how much of a distinction Kelly actually made between reality and what she saw on television. "Sweetie," I said, trying to balance the pride I felt against the obvious danger, "we need to talk." I Used to Love Music, written by Roxy Goff. I used to love music. I've been to hundreds of gigs, witnessed some of the greatest artists in person before life claimed them. The rise and fall of Cauban, the anarchy and tragedy of Keith Flint, Osborne and the Bat Incident, Freddie freaking Mercury. Oh, how I loved it all. I loved every rift, every controversy, and oh God, just everything these people brought to my life. Now the sound of a song playing, even one I used to scream and mosh at the top of my lungs to, all sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. I think back to my life and cringe because I can't remember the joy it brought. Everything just sounds like noise. When I signed up to Spotify, I was in love. I made playlist after playlist, different moods, different genres, a playlist for every occasion. It was all organized, bar one. I made a master playlist that I added everything to. Songs I haven't heard, songs I wasn't sure I liked, recommended bands. By the end, it was a few 100,000 songs long, just unorganized chaos. I was browsing one night trying to find something new to listen to, and I glanced at the master playlist. I wish I had time to shift through that properly. I said aloud to myself. I didn't know who or what heard me, but I blinked and suddenly I was transported to a white room with no doors or windows. I looked around and saw a stereo system and a computer with Spotify locked on the screen in the middle of the room. I don't know how long it's been. The computer won't let me skip the songs. I have to listen it all the way through before it lets me choose if it stays on the playlist or it goes. I'm barely 1% through. God, I freaking hate music now. The Paper Children, written by Juniper Dusk. When Charlie was almost 10 years old and his sister just turned 7, she disappeared away one night. Some thought she'd gone to heaven. The little girl had ventured out, showed no care or sign of virtue. She'd sneaked out quietly from her window, leaving way beyond their curfew. The police had searched for days on end. They feared that she'd been taken, But though he listened to their fears, Charlie knew they'd been mistaken. See, Charlie knew a little secret about what might have happened the day his whole world changed forever, the night his whole life blackened. She'd sneaked into his bed that night, climbed in beneath the covers, wrapped her hands round both of his, and whispered, "Listen, brother." She told him of the children then who waited in the garden, the faceless ones lined at the fence who'd promised not to harm them. They say they were the paper children, like ones hung up at Christmas. She said these things with awe and wonder, but they just made Charlie listless. She told him of their voices too, which sang to her each night, asking her to play with them. She told him that she might. Now 4 weeks have passed since his sister first went missing. Charlie cries upon his bed each night and prays someone is listening. He calls out for a miracle, for a signal or a sign. Then when he hears the distant murmur, he knows that it is time. They whisper out to Charlie first and sing about that night. Then when they say his sister's name, Charlie's heart jumps with delight. He clambers to the windowsill and peeks beyond the curtain, sees 8 little figures all in a line, and now he knows he's certain. He races down to the garden. His feet slide on fresh dew, but Charlie's excitement cements to fear when they come into view. These children can't be made of paper because paper cannot breathe, and these don't even look like children. Children don't have sharpened teeth. "I'm Charlie," he says, his voice a mere whisper. He trembles and asks, "Do you know my sister?" The smallest of sobs escape the figure far right. This cry he remembers, throws his arms out, grabs tight. But his arms tear right through her. She screams, as does he. The figures start howling. He's stuck fast, can't break free. His fingers start melting, his skin starts to taper. The figures all cackle as Charlie too turns into paper. The pain is unbearable, searing all of his limbs. He knows this is useless, he knows he won't win. He closes his eyes now, holds them pressed tight, as his body seals with them, his skin fading white. A little girl rises, voices disturb her slumber. She slides on her slippers, and to the window she wanders. Palms pressed to the glass, she whispers out pardon, and she sees 9 paper children calling out from her garden. The Howl of Children, written by Scarabeum. My son died when he was only 5. He was running harmlessly around the garden, and then he suddenly fell to the ground. His heart had failed. Burying your own child was a surreal experience. You run your hands over the small coffin and feel the smoothness of the box that contains your own creation. You sense the sadness that everyone invited would rather be somewhere else. Not through a lack of compassion, more that it reminds them that their own life is getting even closer to that final chime of the clock. My husband tried to cope with the grief, but in the end it overwhelmed him. He walked to the bridge, overlooked the motorway, and jumped over. Grief and loneliness are like two lovers forever intertwined around one another. They never let go. 4 years passed in their embrace. In the end, I moved away to a place where I would be a stranger. I told nobody where I had gone. I left everything behind. I now live in a place where strong winds are carried across the northern seas. They batter the cottage I now call home. My father used to tell me that you should always close your windows during a storm, for the wind carries ghosts under its wing. As a child, this would frighten me, but that was not my father's aim. I know he loved me and was the best kind of man. He was protecting me. I wish my husband had been like him and been there for me. One morning, as the fury of the storm hammered the windows, I left one open. As I had hoped, the howl swept in. It looked like my son. It ran towards me, calling out my name and hugged me. I shouldn't have done it, but I embraced it back. Then it was gone. I curled up into a dark corner and disintegrated into complete distress. Grief took hold of me. I called out for the howl, and it cried back, over and over, repeating, "Traveling the world, there is a wind that carries with it the whispers of the dead. It has always been here, but not everyone can see what it holds. Once it enters your life, it never leaves. Some call them ghosts or spirits, but they are neither. My father could see them as well. He had his younger brother with him. The ghost of my son will now accompany me until I join him. I cannot touch him. I can only see him. He will ask me questions I cannot answer. Why can't I hold him? Why is he so hungry? Why is he so cold? Where is Daddy? Why aren't you talking to me?" So now I count the days staring at the rough waters, my dead son with me always, crying out for my loving touch, listening to the howling of my child. And when I die, it will only continue. My Girl Likes to Pretend. Written by Writing is Fun, But You Suck. I hate when she does this to me. I get the flirtatiousness behind it, but sometimes I'm just tired and don't want to feel like I have to work for her affection. Why does she simply enjoy pretending like we're not dating anymore? I'm not an insecure man, but sometimes she makes me doubt myself. I finally get to the shop where she works, and I stop outside. Peering through the window, she's there, gorgeous as ever, talking to a man whose body language tells me he's interested. As I watch them, it becomes obvious that she's encouraging the attention. I try not to get jealous as I remind myself that it's all an act. After lingering a little while longer, allowing them to flirt in front of me to get myself in the proper headspace, I burst into the shop. "Hey, baby," I say to her as I approach them. Her face scrunches up when she sees me, an attempt to look scared. Sometimes I think her acting is embarrassing, but I'm sure this jackass is buying it. You weren't allowed to be here, she says, the fake panic in her voice admittedly more believable than her facial expression. Despite my annoyance at having to go through this whole thing and dance, I feel a bit proud of her. She's getting better at pretending, and she's still my girl, after all. Who has, and so that doesn't make them jump through a few hoops from time to time. Don't be like that, I say. Come on, I'll drive you home. I reach out to put my hand on her arm, but the wannabe hero steps between us. Is there a problem here? He asks her, keeping his eyes on me. Yes, she answers. Get out of here, Jake. I don't want you here. I said don't be like that. Let's go. Man, I think you better get the heck out of here, the dude says. I look over, noticing how large his muscles are. Of course, she always picks this type. I get out of here. My girl repeats. Really making me work today? I'm calling the cops. She reaches for her phone, selling the heck out of her performance. Fine, I'm gone, I say, and turn to walk out. 2 hours later, I'm watching them kiss passionately through her bedroom window. I opened it slowly and quietly slid in. My girl shrieks. It's my stalker, she screams, not loudly enough to alert the neighbors. And the dude is up in a flash. My knife is faster, though, and his throat opens up. Blood pours out onto the bed as he wobbles a little. Finally, he collapses in a heap. Are you going to hurt me, mister? She asks. Oh yeah, I say, real badly. She smiles at me wolfishly. I smile back. We don't bother cleaning the blood up first. She doesn't mind if it's a little messy. Everybody has a thing. Sometimes, though, I wish hers was leather. Cars sometimes go bang. Written by Incredible Ink Pen. Transport has become a frightening thing. Every company is dictated by the government to adhere to a very strict and strange new rule. Those that choose to travel by car are putting themselves at risk. Those that are selling cars are not criminals. That has been made clear. There should be no guilty conscience. You must earn a living somehow. Those that travel by car are putting themselves at risk, though not in the traditional sense. No, this is time where death can arrive without any human error at all. It's very simple. If you purchase a car, any car, there is a chance that it will blow up when you put the key in the ignition. I have seen it happen with my own eyes. Just last week I saw my neighbor's car obliterate. A loud bang, and chunks of metal flying through the sky. Heck, by now, people barely react when they see it. The government have encouraged people to have a rethink. Reduce pollution, less noise. And on the upside, they argue. It helps to reduce overpopulation. It gives people a different perspective, forces them to reconsider the future of our planet, opens our eyes. There is no telling which cars will explode. All that can be guaranteed is that you'll be inside. In case you are wondering, There's no means of escape. The locks activate a split second before the detonation. Thankfully, I purchased my car several years ago, before this law became a thing. But I still get worried every time I sit behind the wheel. Deep breaths. Somehow, I think that I've plugged something into my car I wasn't looking. Explosions are the standard. I hear them in my sleep, and I've learned to not wake up. Now I see about 2 or 3 cars explode every day, but I don't think to stop and assess the situation or try to save anyone. Nobody does. We allow the process to take its course. The screams are short-lived. The debris gets swept up, and the remains of the bodies too, by explosion cleaners. A group of people employed to make sure the streets leave no remnants of those that have been destroyed. Now, as I sit behind the wheel, staring out of my windshield and thinking about what I've seen recently, the lives lost, the chunks of metal, it all comes clear. Yes, for the first time, I'm wishing that today my car would explode. I Didn't Die in the Blast, written by Irfin Wave. I remember it in motives more than anything, emotions more than images. I was sitting on the edge of a tall building, maybe a skyscraper, maybe an apartment complex. She was sitting next to me, her hair framed in the dripping colors of the sunset. I'd told her I loved her, and we both sat in a silence that was both tense yet soothing. A weight was lifted off of my chest. We all knew it was coming. We knew it was going to level everything. We knew it would render the horizon green and rooftops into dust. It wasn't like how movies showed it. Somehow, by some miracle, there was no violence in the hours leading up to then. There was no crime. There was no violence. There was only a universal calm as we all attempted to spend our last moments together in harmony and love. I turned back to her, opening my mouth to say something. I don't know what I was going to say. We were both silently crying, tears staining our cheeks and making them bloom in reds and pinks. And then it happened. Her face, the horizon, it all lit up. I turned my back to face it. It was beautiful. A bloom rising up into the sky, blindingly orange, in a light I knew I would only see once in my entire life. By God, if I were going to die, I would at least admire the thing that would render me nothing. As the shockwave approached and passed, I felt a hand rest itself on my back. Despite the pain and the noise and the shattering of glass, I was comforted. I was spending my last moments with someone that I appreciated and loved. And then the hand pushed, and I fell. I think I turned back for a moment as I plummeted. All I could make out were her eyes, cold and hollow, nothing in her soul. The moment I hit the ground was when the world lit up in flames.